wife and I were talking before I came over here. I said, oh, yeah, I know exactly where that was because I had a case there. And then she said, when you're done with a solicitor thing, here's what you could do. You could give tours of York County and just go around and go, and that's where.
This is where this happens.
And I drive around the county and I just see all these places. And there isn't a corner of this county that doesn't have a memory for me.
And welcome to another episode of the Bandit Room. My name is Charles. I'm joined here in the studio today by Mr. Caleb.
Hello again.
Thank you. And across the table, we have Aggie.
Hey, what's up?
He's back.
Last time I saw you guys were all young.
Yeah.
All the way back in
naive.
season 3.
And now this season you guys all look more matured and older. What's going on?
Hey.
What are you guys on?
We're bringing that experience to the table here. The show's getting nothing but better.
All right,
at
awesome.
this point. So and that is
Until you had me on. It's going to take a brief dip here, people. Just brace yourselves. It'll be okay. It'll get back on track next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, that voice you're hearing is our guest today, Mr. Kevin Brackett. Kevin is the solicitor of the 16th Judicial Court of South Carolina, which includes York and Union County. I could go on a little bit longer about your bio, but I think I'll let you do it if you'd like to do that. Just kind of give a little background as to your role and how long you've been in this particular role here.
Okay. I graduated from law school in 1991 and came straight here to go to work in the prosecutor's office. I've been in the office since 1991. I started out as an assistant solicitor prosecuting narcotics cases. Then after a couple of years, I went to prosecuting violent crimes. And in 1995, I became the deputy solicitor for then Solicitor Tommy Pope, and remained his chief deputy for 11 years until he retired in 2006, where Governor Sanford appointed me to replace him and fill out the last 2 years of his term. I ran on my own in 2008, 12, 16, and 20, and now it's 2024 election season again, so I'm running again this year.
Fantastic. Wow. So you've spent your entire professional career in this office, is that right?
Yeah, that's
Is
right.
that unusual?
We've got a lot of folks in the office. We've built a good office. We've got a number of people in there who came out of law school, and that's one of the things I'm proud of. We've got a great unit of people who are committed, and that's what makes the office great, is getting people who know this is what they want to do. This is how they want to dedicate their time and their careers, and they get behind prosecution. It's not for everybody. Some people come out, they know they want to be a defense attorney, and that's fine too. We need them, but we've got a great crew of people who are committed. Yeah.
And so you went straight to it. At what point did you know? Did you know before you went into it that this is the kind of field you wanted to be in, or did you determine that on the job?
My family's from York County, but my dad was in the military, and so we traveled a lot growing up. I was born in Japan, and I was raised mostly in Asia growing up as a kid. I came back to South Carolina to go to college at USC in Columbia. I'm a Gamecock. Yeah, that's right. And so when I went to law school and I got the first clerkship after my first year in law school, I was looking around for something. But when I went to law school, I was really thinking I wanted something that would allow me to go back out into the world and do some international law, or something that would allow me to travel, because I love to travel, still do. But a buddy of mine hooked me up with a job working in the public defender's office, actually, in Richland County. So I clerked for the chief deputy public defender, that was the main trial guy. And within a month of starting there, I was in court sitting down with him and a guy named Furley Baker, who was charged with murder. And I just love the excitement of the courtroom. So, but I definitely have a preference as to which side I want to be on, and I'm on the side I want to be on now. So, and so I said, 1991 going forward, this is what I've done, is prosecution.
That's fantastic.
So when you say here, are you talking about Rock Hill, or are you just talking about York County?
York County.
Okay.
Yeah, just end it right here in prosecution.
Gotcha.
Really.
Okay.
Yeah, focusing on helping victims and that sort of thing.
Okay. And you mentioned growing up in different countries. What are some of the countries you lived in growing up?
I was born in Tokyo. My dad was stationed at Tachikawa Air Force Base at the time. And I've also lived in the Philippines for 3 years. I was in Thailand for 2 years. Traveled to Hong Kong and Korea, and to other places, Fiji and New Zealand. We've traveled around a lot through that area with my wife. Some of those trips. And then we were in Europe London, my dad was there. He retired from the military, became a foreign correspondent. And so he was working in London, and I went and spent a summer with them. I was in college at the time, but I stayed with them for a summer. And in Madrid, I was an exchange student in '84. Went to Madrid and learned Spanish.
It's a lot of traveling, and then you stayed in York County.
That's right. It's a great place to be. Yeah, it's a wonderful place.
It's a great place to be.
Hey, Charles, I traveled through here 18 years ago, and I've been stuck here, man.
Similar story. Similar stories. You guys both got stuck in York County.
It has a magnetic appeal.
That's right.
Yeah. Who would want to leave?
That's right.
Now let's talk. You'd mentioned that you served under Tommy Pope as Chief Deputy Solicitor. What are some of the ways that you've seen the office change over the years? Some of the most meaningful.
Well, when I started in 1991, there were only 6 prosecutors, and it was sort of right engulfed in the crack cocaine epidemic. We were having a lot of drug issues, and the office had just, with this crack cocaine thing coming in, the office had just become overwhelmed with warrants, and resources in the office hadn't kept up. So the office has expanded. Of course, the population has too.
Right.
When I started, there were about 130,000 people in New York, and we're over 300 now. So yeah, it's a lot more people, a lot more cases, a lot more complicated. I mean, things were much simpler back then. Files were usually just a handful of papers and maybe some pictures. Now, even a simple shoplifting at the Walmart might have 6 hours of video from 27 different angles, showing the person coming in, walking here, going there, and then you got body camera footage when the police get there. So it is so much more digital evidence that we have to deal with, and we get it from them, we hand it over to the defense, we have to review it. So there's just a lot more complexity to the job now.
Yeah.
So how much has the team size increased to accommodate all that work?
We have 30 attorneys now.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, we're short. I could hire more. Everybody is having difficulties recruiting and retaining across the state. It's a challenge, and so it's one of the things that we're dealing with is making, we've had a little luck just recently and brought some new people on, but they're not graduating till May, so they really won't be able to start digging in until they're sworn in November after they pass the bar.
So when you say you'd like to have more, how many more would be like ideal for you?
I would love to see about 34, 35, something like that.
Gotcha.
So that we had, because you've always got people in different stages of their career.
Right.
And really, I don't know how it is in your business, but in mine, when you hire somebody out of law school, we're dumping into them. We're teaching them. Law school really educates them on how to be a lawyer.
Correct.
But and how to teach yourself. But a lot of the work that's done is in the first 18 months to 2 years that they're really just absorbing and learning from us. And after about 18 months or 2 years, that's when they start giving back. We can sort of turn our back on them and allow them to sort of run on their own, handle their own cases. If you have people leave that have a lot of experience, that work has to be divided up among the other experienced people. So I'd like to have a few more people sort of in that early stage so we can be constantly having a cohort coming along that is trained up and ready to go.
Before we get into the weeds here, can we do a bird's eye view and talk a little bit about what the role of the solicitor's office is for someone who's unfamiliar with what is a solicitor, what is the solicitor's office?
Well, even our title is unusual because South Carolina has a habit of wanting to be different and stand out from the crowd. Yeah. And so we do that in every way, including what we call district attorneys. Most people would know my position as a district attorney if you watch Law and Order, the DA. That's what I do. So we call it solicitor in South Carolina. So my responsibility is for the prosecution of all cases that carry more than 30 days. So traffic offenses and lower level offenses, simple assaults and trespassings and disorderly conducts, that kind of thing, are prosecuted in magistrate or municipal court and not by my office. So there are a few exceptions, but I won't bore you with the details. A couple cases that we handle, DUIs and that sort of thing. But everything more than 30 days is prosecuted in General Sessions Court, which is the general court of criminal jurisdiction in South Carolina. That's everything from 60 days up to the death penalty. So we handle murder cases, we handle DUI seconds, and we handle shopliftings, armed robberies, sexual assaults, all sorts of crimes in between.
Gotcha.
Talking about murder cases, you were on TV for one of the cases. It was like 60 Minutes or the ABC TV shows. you did an interview. Was that the murder case of Lake Wiley where the lady was putting eye drops?
Yes. Yeah, the
I can't-
Visine case.
Yeah. Did you handle that case?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was walking through my living room and then I said, I know that guy. What's he doing on TV?
There's been a number of them.
Okay.
And that case in particular, the victim in that case, Mr. Stephen Clater, great guy, good family. He was an interesting character. But that case itself, the facts are so unusual that it's really sparked a lot of interest in the media. I've done probably 4 or 5 of these crime shows where they wanted to profile that case because,
Right.
who kills somebody with Visine?
Right, right.
Really unusual. So, yeah, it's gotten a lot of media attention. I've had a few of those over the years, but that's probably been one of the ones that sort of captured the imagination of the media.
Are there other landmark cases that you're proud to have worked on?
Well, actually, we're sitting in your office space right here, and I didn't know until you invited me here that I knew you'd moved, but I wasn't sure where. Before it was your office space, it was a gym, I think.
Right. For a short time.
And then before that, it was a food
line, yeah.
And so I pulled up, I had a case one time that there was an armed robbery at that food line.
Wow.
And the guy was running across the parking lot, and a deputy came after him, and he turned around and fired. The building caught several rounds. So there's probably a few bullets that are still in the up top there. And then he ran across the parking lot over towards the Burger King and jumped in a car of a woman, I think it was a woman, who was waiting for a drive-through at Burger King. Kidnapped and carjacked her. There was a chase through the city, and they eventually hemmed him up and boxed him in. SWAT came out. There was a standoff.
What?
Nobody was hurt,
gosh.
thank God. But they got him into custody, and I prosecuted that guy. He got a bunch of time. He's still in jail. This was probably 20, 25 years ago. So when my wife and I were talking before I came over here, I said, oh, yeah, I know exactly where that was because I had a case there. And then she said, when you're done with the solicitor thing, here's what you could do. You could give tours of York County and just go around and go, and that's where.
This is where this happened.
And then I said, that's actually a thing in New York City. There's a tour called New York Notorious that they'll take you around in a bus and go, that's where Son of Sam did his thing in the 70s. And that's where John Gotti whacked Paulie Castellano after eating dinner at Sparks Steak. So they do that.
funny.
And I was like, I don't know that everybody would be as interested. Maybe local people.
Maybe, yeah. It's interesting to us.
I drive around the county and I just see all these places, and there isn't a corner of this county that doesn't have a memory for me of something that happened there, something bad. Unfortunately,
I was going to say, did you just ruin places for your wife all the time when you're driving around?
I just stopped telling her because she's so sensitive. She's got such a good heart.
Right.
She doesn't like to hear about people.
But on that note, I would like to ask you this: if you can't answer, that's cool. Where India Hook and Mount Gallant Road connect. Right now, if you drive by there's a peanut guy who sits there. But there used to be apparently a butcher shop.
Oh yes, there
and
was
then a murder there, a cop was
70s,
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was
before
70s.
my time. Yeah.
I've heard stories about that, but I drive through that every day, multiple times, and I was hoping to find someone who can give me the proper details of exactly what happened
at that location.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
some of those older cases, it's funny, you asked about what's changed since I came on. We used to prosecute out of the police files when I first came here. The police would carry all their files up to the courthouse, and we would use their files. So, that was not a good way to do, because we have to copy all our files and hand them over to the defense. They're entitled to know the evidence we're going to use against them.
Right.
So it was just this unmanageable thing. And when I got here, there were so many cases pending. I had 2,500 warrants that I was responsible for prosecuting personally. And so as I started to dig in, a lot of them we hadn't turned over the evidence to the defense. So I'm trying to figure out. I worked one time over Christmas break, standing at the copier for hours and hours copying discovery to hand over to the defense. And as I was doing it, I thought, it would be great if we just made all these files on a computer. We could put them on a big floppy disk back then.
Caleb, do you know what that is? Caleb
Oh
knows.
yeah, old the soft floppies, and then hand them over to the defense and let them have those copies. And then that saves me all this. Well, Fast forward 10 years from then, I took the office paperless. We are now digital and have been. We were probably one of the first prosecutors' offices, if not the first in the country,
Wow. Okay.
to go paperless. And all of our files are digital. We've got all that stuff online, and our case management system is online. So when COVID hit, basically, and they closed the courthouses down across the state.
Right.
There were no trials. We couldn't do. But we were still trying to keep the jail moving and do some work that we could. But I basically just told everybody, well, just take your laptops. Here's an extra monitor, so you have dual monitors to work from home, a little keyboard, mouse. Forward your desk phone to your cell phone, go home, work from the house.
Right.
And we really didn't miss a lick. Now, we couldn't take cases to court, but we could still get them in, review them, and do the prep work. So it was a great benefit to us.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's fantastic. Was there something in your life that inspired you to become an attorney?
What inspired me was algebra.
Okay.
Because I couldn't do it. So I was wanting to be a doctor when I was young. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. You know, I was in the 7th, 8th grade, so I was a young kid, and I really didn't know. But the idea of being a physician really appealed to me as a kid. But then I hit the higher maths, and I can do mathematics. I'm great with math in my head. And writing, I'm literate. I love to read. So, letters, okay. Numbers, just fine. But when you mix the letters with the numbers, it was like a whole new thing. Right. So that's when my teacher said, well, Kevin, if you want to be a doctor, you're going to have to study some hard science. And that is going to mean after algebra, you're going to have trigonometry and geometry and algebra 2 and then calculus. And you're going to have to do all that. Huh. And that's when I kind of said, now tell me more about the law. So I started to shift because I had the sense by then that I was really not so much a hard science guy. I was a soft science. I love the sciences and I appreciate math. I think it's a beautiful thing, but I just can't. I can't do it. When I retire, maybe one day I'll go back and give it another go. But yeah,
fantastic. Now, you had talked a little bit about caseload, things like that. Can you describe a little bit about the kind of caseload that York County and Union County handle?
So our caseload is it's measured different ways. The state measures caseloads by the number of warrants that are pending. So each criminal offense generates a single warrant. But you could go into a store, rob the store, assault the clerk, steal a car on your way out and carjack somebody, just like the guy did here. Right. And that's going to be multiple warrants, but it's one offense and one defendant. Right. So there's different ways to measure these things, number of warrants, number of defendants, number of cases, because one defendant can have 2 or 3 or 4. Sometimes the police, the sheriff will go out and catch somebody for burglary, and he'll confess to 8 other burglaries, or we'll find property stolen from a bunch of other burglaries, and he admits to it. So he'll have 8 different incidents, one guy, and multiple warrants for all those different things. So there's a bunch of ways. Sorry, that's a long way of trying to explain.
No, it's good to know. We didn't know that stuff.
So it's kind of inside baseball. But so to answer your question, the state measures it using warrants, and for probably 25 years, from 1995 to 2020, the 16th Circuit led the state in the efficiency which warrants were moved. I mean, you can go look at the records online. We moved probably 80+%, no question, 80% of our cases, more than 80% of them were moved within 6 months for years. We would get 80% of the stuff cleared out within 6 months of arrest. So then they changed the goalposts and made it a year, and we went up to 90%. And so we hovered around there for a good long time. But then COVID hit. They changed the way the docket's controlled. We used to control it exclusively. Now the judges have a hand in it, and we've so when COVID hit and they shut the courts down, everything backed up across the state. We're just now starting to dig out. We're back to the right number of warrants and still moving down a little bit. But the thing that we're backed up on is jury trials. We have a number of cases pending that are people are waiting for a jury trial. So we're getting to those as quick as we can, but it takes maybe 15 minutes to do a guilty plea. And, let me ask you guys a question. I'll take a little poll here. Because you all watch Law & Order, the show Law & Order?
I have.
You know how the first half of the show, they're investigating the crime. The second half of the show, they're in court. Right. And the one thing about Law & Order is everybody goes to trial, right? Every case ends up with a jury trial. The jury's sitting there listening to the testimony.
Right.
What percentage of my cases, in reality, do you think go to a jury trial? How many of them are resolved by the jury deciding?
30%.
Oh, I'm going to say like 2%.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Caleb,
Much closer.
2%?
Oh, yeah.
29%.
$1, Bob.
Yeah, actually lower than 2%.
Oh,
Really?
really?
Wow.
Most people most cases are
Most
resolved by
cases
guilty
resolved out of-
plea or diversion or dismissal. Sometimes we review it and there's not enough evidence to go forward. So, it depends. But so most of our cases are resolved by guilty plea. And that has to be because we have about maybe 230, 240 days of court a year, right?
Wow.
So if I have 3,000 defendants a year and they each have a case,
Right.
if I did 3,000 jury trials, 3,000 days, you could see how that would start piling up. So most of the cases are resolved by guilty plea because they have to be.
Right.
And
Charles
that's
did not win $1 because I know I can see the sheet in front of him. He's done some good research.
Yeah, I see that.
So going back to as much details you can give us, does your team goes into a case hoping to get a resolution within a short period of time, or they're like, how does that work?
Well, most cases are minor.
Uh-huh.
Most cases
Right.
are. I mean, they're not. People think of criminal cases, they think of murders
Right.
and big
Right.
cases,
Right.
and those are a small percentage. A very small percentage of our docket are major felonies. Most of the cases are really, in some shape or form, they're drug related. I would say probably 2/3 to 70% of my docket has some connection to drugs. Either people are using drugs and they're caught with them, they're selling drugs and they're caught selling drugs, or they're an addict and they're breaking into your house to steal your stuff, to sell it, to get money to buy drugs.
Correct.
So there's, forging checks to get money. I mean, it's a lot of it spins around drugs. Or
Right.
violence. A lot of violence is related to drugs because gangs fight over who gets to sell where, or people rob somebody. If I know you're selling a bunch of drugs, I know you're probably sitting on money.
Right.
Or drugs are money.
Drugs are
because
money,
you can
right.
turn around, sell them, and
Right.
make money. So you get a lot of robberies. I mean, we have people killed. It's tragic. They're shot over, $40 of marijuana and killed, and kids. And they just, somebody decides they're going to ride off instead of buying the drugs, and they ride off with them, and the guy shoots after them and kills them. Just tragic how many of our cases revolve around
Gotcha.
narcotics.
Wow.
So that's a big part of our docket.
On that note, what would you say are some of the biggest issues facing York and Union County as far as crime?
Right now, coming back to the drug theme, fentanyl
Yeah.
is, everybody's heard about fentanyl.
Yeah.
Fentanyl is a narcotic. It's a synthetic opioid that is very, very widely used these days. A lot of people are using it. It comes out of Mexico. Raw fentanyl is very powerful, about 100 times more powerful than heroin. And so you can take a kilo of that and then mix it with binder, some kind of like inert but harmless ingredient that you mix that together and then press pills out of it. So a kilo of fentanyl can make thousands, hundreds of thousands of pills. So that's the biggest problem we have right now is the fentanyl trade. People selling, they're making a lot of money off of that. People are on the user side. The real tragedy is that so many people are dying from fentanyl. We have one person dying every 3 to 3.5 days in York County from a fentanyl overdose.
We
In
would
South
never know
Carolina.
that, would we?
Yeah. In South Carolina, it's 5 a day.
Wow.
Five people are dying every single day. By the time you go to bed tonight and the sun sets, 5 people will not be with us that were here with us in the morning. And so I think that's the biggest challenge that we're facing right now. We're not, and it is by far the worst drug in my 30 plus years, in my 33rd year, by far. Nothing even comes close to the damage that's being done by fentanyl. It's absolutely horrible.
Wow.
So we've got to get a handle on that. We just passed a fentanyl trafficking bill last year. Prior to the fentanyl trafficking bill, if you were arrested with 5 kilos of fentanyl, the penalty was the same as if you were arrested with half an ounce of fentanyl. 0 to 15 years for a first offense. Parole eligible, you'd be back out on the street in 2 or 3 years. We arrested people in York County a year before, it's fall of 22, with 30 kilos of fentanyl, enough to kill everybody in South Carolina like 5 times over or something. Horrible, horrible drug. So we fixed that, and the penalties are much more severe for trafficking in fentanyl. But what we haven't done is really aggressively moved after the addicts. And when I say aggressively, I don't mean that we need to throw them all in jail, but we need to provide them with an incentive to embrace recovery, because they're not. Right now, they go on probation, and they can test positive again while on probation, and they're not revoking them and sending them to prison. So they just keep putting them out on the street, and eventually it's just like Russian roulette. You're going to take the pill that kills you. So I would love to see a program. We have something in my office called Drug Court, and the Drug Court is a program where if you plead guilty, we're going to give you a 10-year sentence, but we're going to put it on a shelf. You don't have to serve the 10. We're going to stick it over there. And in the meantime, you're going to go in this program. And if you can successfully complete this program that takes 18 months to 2 years, if you successfully complete it, you stay clean, then we'll take that 10 years off and we'll tear it up. You don't have to serve a day. If you screw up in the program and you fail out, then you go to prison for 10 years. So it's a carrot and stick approach to dealing with it. And it really works. We need that replicated across the criminal justice system so that all offenders whose criminal behavior is driven and motivated by their addiction are forced to make a choice, prison or recovery, one way or the other. And it's simple. You put them on probation, and the first time they fail, you bring them in front of a judge within 24 hours and say, you failed a drug test, judge. Okay, go to jail for 3 days. And you're going to detox, and it's going to be terrible. It's going to suck. You're not going to like it.
Right.
But then you're going to come back out, and we're going to go at it again. And if they fail again, okay, now go for a week, then 2, then 4, then a month or 2 months, and go down to prison for 6 months. And every time you get out, you come back, and we're going to go at it again. And it's just, at some point, that person is going to break. And they're going to go, this is no way to live.
Right.
Okay, so what do I got to do? How do I get off this stuff? And that's all we want. I don't want to put people in prison. Prison's expensive. It's a lot of money to run prisons. I just want people to stop using drugs, and a lot of these people want to as well. They just don't have the will.
So from watching movies and reading news and statistics and all this stuff, different drugs are attracted to different groups of people or types of people. What about fentanyl? I don't know much about this stuff. Like, what's the kind of...
Yeah, does it cut across all demographics, or is it a particular type of addict that ends up with these guys?
It is cutting across all demographics. A lot of people are addicted to fentanyl. There's a lot of people out there. It doesn't have... I mean, once upon a time, you had, like, crack seemed to be like an African-American drug, and the powder cocaine was a Caucasian drug. So you sort of had this breakdown like that. I don't think that's the case with fentanyl.
Wow.
Actually, we track that, and I can tell you, not only by race, age, sex, we break it down by who's getting arrested in these different categories. So we can sort of have a graph, and we track through a system of labeling drugs with coded numbers within my system. We track which drugs are most commonly resulting in arrests. So we can see if one type of drug is spiking, we can sort of target that and go, okay, we're seeing a lot of this now. Opioids and meth. Those two seem to go hand in hand, because an opioid addict will switch to meth, which is another big problem drug that we have. A lot of that comes from Mexico as well. So we've got problems with both. But yeah, people are of all stripes, sizes, ages are dying from fentanyl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it often they're on something else that leads to that, or is it? It's not a drug that's taken like recreationally, is it?
Fentanyl?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
People
what.
okay.
Yeah, the people who get addicted to opioids, because an opioid has a psychological component, but it also has a powerful physical component. When you are abusing opioids for any period of time, after a while your body gets a tolerance built up. But also when you stop using it, your body gets angry and you go through withdrawals. You've probably heard about that. So yeah, you're craving the drug, and your body is sort of revolting against the absence of the drug, and that drives you to go out and try to find it.
Wow.
That's wild. What are some other issues that you're particularly passionate about right now?
Judicial reform is something that I've been very something I've been very active in, and most people don't think about this, but how we pick judges is just sort of like, everybody just go, well, I don't know. We got judges. I don't know how they get there. They put on a robe. They appear on the bench. And but most people don't think about how we pick them and how the selection process and the methodology can affect the fairness of the system. Okay, so everybody who went to school realizes that we have three branches of government in the United States. You got the executive branch, which is the governor, the attorney general, people like me, the prosecutor, law enforcement. Those are executive. We enforce the law. The legislature passes the laws. They write the laws and pass them. They raise taxes and appropriate money and decide. They raise the money through taxes and decide how to spend it. And then the judiciary's job is to interpret the laws and sort of stand between the government and the people to make sure your rights are protected, your constitutional rights are protected, and that things are done according to the law. So they sort of ride herd over the legal system and make sure that the law is being respected and followed appropriately. So in South Carolina, and of course, the three branches of government were designed to be co-equal. Each one is a check and balances the other two. Checks and balances, everybody hears about that in civics. In South Carolina, the legislature hires the judges, they pay the judges, and they can fire the judges. So we have a legislature that is really sort of the employer of the judiciary. In other states, the public elects them. In a contested election. You and I want to be a judge. You run as one party, I run as another. We raise a bunch of money, put signs out, and try to get the votes.
Right.
And that's bad, too. I don't agree with that because money corrupts. And who gives money and all that sort of thing. If you're a judge, you should be above all that because you should be neutral, like the umpire in a baseball game. Chief Justice John Roberts said, call balls and strikes. That's your job. So I don't agree with that system either. But in South Carolina, I think what we need to do is the governor needs to be given equal say over the selection process so that responsibility is divided equally between the legislative and the executive branch. And ultimately, if I had my druthers, the governor would select the judge. The legislature would approve the judge and decide, okay, yeah, this is a good person. They're not corrupt. They have integrity. They're smart. They're going to work hard. They're going to be a good judge. So we approve of them. Then that person becomes a judge. And then every 6 or 8 years, and it should be a longer period of time, not like, 4.
4 years, yeah.
It should be a longer period of time. The public should get to vote in an up or down vote, not a contested fight, but just a retention election. Is this person doing a good job? If they are, and they get the public's approval, they stay on as a judge. If the public says, no, they're not, as we hear, he never shows up for work and the docket's backed up and nothing's getting done and we don't like, then they give him the boot and then the governor goes back and selects the next person the legislature approves. So I think that gives the governor a say, the legislature a say, and ultimately the people get a say in deciding whether.
So is there any movement towards what you're talking about within the government?
Because there have been a number of high-profile incidents where lawyers, people who serve in the legislature, not every legislator lawyer is a bad person. Not everyone abuses this process. But if I am the legislator that hires the judges, right, and there's this committee that they have in the legislature called the JMSC, the Judicial Merit Selection Committee. That's a super group of legislator lawyers, like 6 of them. Every judge has to go through this group. And if they don't think you're good, you don't even get to run, But if you make it through that, then you go to the legislature and 170 legislators vote to pick the judge out of the 170. So, but that JMSC is super powerful, and there's people on there that have been abusing their authority.
Gotcha.
And there's people in the legislature that aren't even on the JMSC, because if you're the judge and I'm a legislator lawyer and you're hearing a case that I'm the lawyer on, and I walk into your courtroom and you're up for re-election in the legislature next year, are you?
Right.
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, how do you ignore the fact
Right.
that one of the 170 people who gets to decide?
Right.
And if I make him angry, he'll be up there agitating against me with the other 169
Right.
and making me out to look bad.
Right.
And they'll give him the boot. And on top of that, so if I'm one of the 6 privileged chosen ones that sit on that JMSC, I have even more power, because then I don't even have to convince another bunch of the 170.
Right.
I just have to convince a couple of my colleagues on that committee, and I'll kill your candidacy in the cradle.
Wow.
You'll never even get to run
So
again.
is there a movement, like your thought process with more people in the state to
Yeah,
bring something like that?
There are actually, and I think it may be being debated in the Senate today. Was debated last week. Actually, my name was brought up, and not in a good way, by people who have this power and are not happy to have it taken from them, because I've been agitating, not just here on this show, but I've spoken across the state to different groups about this as a problem. I've got a couple of my colleagues that are, our sheriff, Kevin Tolson, has traveled around with me some to helping to try to raise the profile and educate people, because this is so important. That the public wants to have confidence. And I believe that the vast majority of judges are good people. But with the current system, they're put in this terrible position, this terrible conflict of, I want to make the right decision, but what if it makes him angry? And he's one of the chosen 6. What do I do then? And it's a bad position for the judge to be in. So that we just need to get away from that, and that's what I've been fighting hard for the last couple of years. And we finally have a bill we have bills in the Senate and bills in the House. People are talking about this, and it's been given quite a bit of attention. That right now the focus is on reforming that JMSC, the chosen 6, getting those people. They're trying to say nobody on there should be a legislator. It just should be people, that are completely independent of because the legislature ultimately gets to vote. The 170. So why should we have this special group of 6 that get a supercharged vote? They shouldn't. So, personally, I think that lawyers should screen these people. If you want to be a judge, you should go through a screening. And if I'm running from up in York for a judgeship, pick 3. If I want to be a criminal judge, pick 3 criminal practitioners who've been practicing for 25 years or more from another part of the state that don't know me. And all they should be doing is looking at me and going, is he honest? Is he susceptible to being bribed? Is he intelligent? Does he understand the law? Does he know how to try a case and the rules of evidence? The fundamentals that you need to be a good judge. And then once they decide, yes, this person does, then I should be passed through and admitted to run in the legislature.
That's true. I hope I know it's very time consuming. It takes a long time to change things that drastically. I hope it gets done.
Well, it's a powerful thing to be able to control a whole branch of government. And there are people who do not want to give up that power because it's intoxicating to walk into a courtroom and have the judge look up at you and go, oh, it's Senator so-and-so, or it's Representative Jones, this person who has an outsized influence on my career. And you know that when you're walking in. It's almost like, it's bad. And we
talking about bad, since you are a Gamecock, when someone from Clemson...
I don't like how that question started.
I don't like this started.
If I am in Tiger Town, can we go back and start that question again?
This is a neutral zone here. There's no dogs in these
None
fights.
of us went to any of those colleges, so we're good. But what I'm getting to is, if you are prosecuting a case and if the defense side is lies from Clemson, for example, or fan of Clemson, do you get more motivation to really go against them?
No, because I try to be fair. His client can't help where his lawyer went to school. It's not the client's fault. So he shouldn't suffer more because he was foolish enough to hire a Clemson grad to represent him. So no, I couldn't do that to him. But I do feel a greater sense of satisfaction.
Did you forget that your business needed to renew its TCC before August? This process takes 45 days, which may cause you to miss these upcoming deadlines. When you e-file using Tax Bandits, you don't need a TCC code. Just import your form data, generate and review forms, and then Tax Bandits transmits them for you via the FHIR system. Don't miss your deadline. Just go to taxbandits.com and file your forms today.
But I want to ask you a quick question before I forget. TV shows, they have like cold cases.
Yeah.
Is that a thing even for our area here?
Yeah.
How does that work, if you don't mind?
Well, just because a case couldn't be solved at one point in time, it doesn't mean that people stop working on it. I was actually working at the sheriff's office last week. I met with the sheriff and a number of he's got a cold case investigative team of people who go back. And we're looking at cases all the time.
Wow!
And so we were talking about the progress on one case that's very old, and hopefully being able to get some movement on that. And I would also point out we had a case that was tried last fall. Stacey Rabin, maybe in August, I think it was. Back in 1990-91, a man was fishing on the banks of the Catawba River, and he saw a Belk. Like a bag like you'd get from Belk department store. And it was on a little island just a short distance from him. And it was caught up in some weeds and stuff. And he went over there. This is a really tragic situation. He went over to look and see what was in the bag because it looked like there was something in there. And he was tied shut. He opened it, and there was a child, a baby, who had just been born. Some other objects that were in there, and they just didn't know where this baby came from. They're literally a baby in a bag in the river, and it was clear that the child had not lived very long, but the child had lived. An umbilical cord and all these things are still, So they launched an investigation, but they were not able to identify a suspect. But they took the child's DNA. Back then, DNA was very, very much in its infancy. They took the DNA sample, and we have a database that we enter these things into that you can cross-reference against other DNA samples that are in there from criminals. And so they constantly checked against the database to see did anybody who is a relative of this baby, have they been arrested, and is their sample in the system? And fortunately, right before COVID, right around that time, we got a hit. And based on that, 30 years later, we solved the case and made an arrest. Stacey Rabin was arrested. She was the mother. The child's cause of death was the child had been born and then actually stabbed to death.
Wow.
It was horrible case. But we were able to put the case together thanks to some really, really hard work by the sheriff's office investigator. I mean, they went through records, countless records, just trying to close every loophole, close every door of any question of doubt as to who was responsible for this baby's death. And we prosecuted the mother at trial last August and convicted her, and she's gone for the rest of her life.
Wow. That is heavy.
Now, we never give up is the short answer.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I was going to say, how do you deal with the weight of the consequential decisions required in your role? Whether it's trying to put somebody away who committed a horrible crime, or making sure that criminals aren't going free, on the street.
Well, I'm never happy about a wasted life. I put more people in prison than I can remember. I couldn't remember every murder I've prosecuted over 33 years. And it's never like you sit there and go, yeah, somebody's going to jail forever. Yeah.
Right.
But you are like, yay, he's not going to hurt anybody else.
Right.
And he's going to get punished for what he did. That you can be happy about, that somebody's going to be held accountable for doing something terrible to another human being. And that brings you satisfaction. But, we take just as much concern and care, each of the people in my office and everybody who works in my office hears me say early on in their tenure that you should be every bit as proud of dismissing a bad case as you are about prosecuting a good one. Because as horrible as it is for a guilty person to go free, how terrible is it for an innocent man to be sitting in jail?
Right.
You don't want that either. So we take our duty very seriously, and we work closely with law enforcement to, explore every avenue and make sure that we've got every scrap of evidence we can. Once we decide the evidence is there and this person we believe is guilty and responsible, or this person should be hailed into court to answer for what they did, to explain their conduct, then we move forward and we don't do it in a shy way.
Gotcha.
So putting so many, criminals away, does it ever cause any issue outside of court in personal life with security and other stuff?
Well, you always have to be cognizant of that.
Right.
You always have to think about that, and I do, and I take security very seriously, and so there have been people that I've prosecuted in the past that I was particularly happy to see them go to prison because I knew they wouldn't be out to hurt me, and that they might want to.
Right.
So there are those folks. Fortunately, they're pretty rare. Most of the people have enough sense to know this is a hard target. You don't want to come after this guy.
Right.
And so.
So I know you said you work very closely with our Sheriff Kevin Tolson. Are you guys friends? Outside?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. No. We've known each other. Gosh, almost. I think he started within 12 months of my starting.
Okay.
He's been at it about as long as I have. So we came up together, and for a long time he worked as an investigator in my office. He ran the forensic crime unit, the forensic services unit, which in South Carolina, in York County, we're very fortunate. All the chiefs of police and the sheriff, we all get together once a month and talk about issues that are going on so that we're not missing anything. A lot of places that doesn't work that way. People aren't talking. There's some competition and animosity, and people are very turf-oriented and they're protective of their turf. But our crew here in York, and it really pays large dividends for the public. Our crew here, we all get along. If somebody needs help, they're not shy about calling for help, and nobody's shy about reaching out to help them. So, Chief Watts over in Rock Hill, Brian Zachary in Fort Mill, Randy Grice in Clover, Brian Trail, Joey Crosby in TGK. Trail is in York. I mean, we've got the Highway Patrol, the Winthrop Police Department, Charles Yurda. All of us get along great. We all have each other's numbers on speed dial, and we talk once a month. We have a set meeting every single month. We all get together and talk about the Drug Enforcement Unit, which is countywide, because we've collaborated, because drug dealers don't care. They're not like, oh, I can't sell you drugs over there because the city limits. I can only sell in Rock Hill. They don't care. They'll sell drugs anyway. So if they're not worried about jurisdiction, we shouldn't be. And so we have this collective group of people who focus on that issue. We have a forensic services unit for the eastern side, the western side of the county that helps, especially with the smaller agencies, because smaller agencies they don't have the resources to buy all the gadgets and the scientific stuff, and so the bigger agencies work together with them to make sure that we pool our resources to help. If there's a major crime, you want all hands on deck.
Now, you mentioned that Sheriff Tolson started around the same time you did, so you both have considerable experience here, and you're up for re-election at the same time. So what are some of the big advantages of providing continuity of leadership in these kinds of positions?
Well, that's a very important thing, because you not only want to take care of the agency while it is in your care and make sure that you are doing the best job you can for the people, but you also want to groom up the next generation of leader. You can see some gray in my hair, so I'm not going to be here forever, and I work and constantly think about who can do this job, because it's a different job than just being a line prosecutor. You have to be a manager. You have to budget. You have to deal with policy issues with the legislature, like I was telling you, with judicial reform and fentanyl trafficking and trying to get a drug court for people on probation. There's all these things you have to constantly be asking yourself, how can we do this better? Where are we failing? And what can we do to improve? If you're not changing, we're in constant change. And that's not because we're broken. It's because things are changing around us, and we need to change with them to keep up. If you're just stagnant and you're not changing, then you are dying like a shark. You need to keep moving or you stop breathing. So we are always evolving, always looking to improve. Well, how can we fix this problem? How can we do this better? Why do we have that piece of paper? And why are we filing that? Well, we do that because 20 years ago, somebody said we needed to. Well, does it serve a purpose now?
Right.
No, we'll stop doing it.
Right. So before we get on to asking some other out-of-work question, do you have any political ambition there, Kevin?
Well, I have. I never look too far ahead. I'm so busy, focused on what I'm doing now.
Right.
I really love what I'm doing, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Answered like a true politician.
Well, you don't want to close any doors. You never know. They may go, Brackett, you're needed in the Oval Office. Get up there. You're in. In which case, I'd say,
I mean, you must. Yeah, I don't even know how you find any free time to do anything other than what do you do. I mean, it's like a 24/7 stuff for you. So
I've never taken a vacation that I didn't work. Every single one, my phone has rung, and you take calls.
Right,
it's just constant.
Yeah. So what do you do if you have any free time? Like, what are your hobbies?
I love to cook.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my.
I haven't got any invitation. I just want to put that on the record here.
Okay. We'll see about, maybe it'll be early summer before I probably have any time to keep that in mind. But no, that's. I mean, sometimes I get home and I don't even take my suit off, and I'm working something because to me it's just it's a release. And it's a creative outlet for me. I guess I shouldn't say I love to cook. Probably it'd be more accurate to say I love to eat. If you love to eat, then you better learn to cook.
Right?
That's true. That's funny. That was one of my questions: is how do you wind down after a job like that, where you're thinking about all these high profile cases and things like that? So is cooking is that what
cooking
does it for you?
is a big part of it, and this will sound goofy, but I like video games too.
Oh, really?
I don't play for hours and hours.
Yeah.
But it's like, to me, it's almost like, that old toy, the Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah.
You used to shake it to clear the screen.
Yeah.
30 minutes of Call of Duty, and I'm just like, okay. 'Cause while I'm doing that, I'm not thinking about anything else.
Yeah. The way to clear your head a little bit.
That's right.
Okay.
Because otherwise, it can, it can be overwhelming.
Right.
I wake up at night and I just try to tell myself, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just go back to
that
bed.
was going to be my question. Like, how do you
just-
stop thinking about a case?
But there are too many nights you end up sitting there staring at the ceiling. When I was in school, I attended bar through college, and I tell people I might go back when I'm all done with this. That might be what I do instead of doing the tours of crime scenes. I'm attend bar because I never lay awake at night. When I was a bartender, I never laid awake at night looking up at the ceiling, thinking about all the drinks I had to make the next day.
Well, that takes me to something I learned not too long ago. Kevin used to actually have a connection to where I live now.
That's right.
He used to live he used to rent that cabin.
I didn't live in the cabin.
You
I
were
lived
on the
on the top floor
the
of that house, of the house that's now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Up there on the top floor.
We can bleep that name, but
Well, I didn't say the last name. A lot of out there.
So Kevin and Susan had come over for my 50th, and we were talking. I was like, he's like, I know this place. I used to. I was like, wow, that's. Oh yeah, on the top level there. Yeah.
Because the landlord, the people that owned the house, lived on the second floor.
Correct.
And the whole bottom floor was his shop. It was an incredible 2,500 square foot shop. This guy had everything.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned you like to travel. What are some of your favorite destinations?
I was born and raised in Asia, so I love it. And that's probably, if I had to say, 50% of what I cook is Asian. I love Thai food. I love Vietnamese food. I love spicy food. So, you bring on the heat. And so that's a big part, But so I like to go to Asia. Europe, of course, Italy. Who doesn't love pasta?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Italy is great. I spent 4 months as an exchange student in Spain in 1984, and I'll tell you what, you've heard of the siesta, the Spanish siesta.
Yeah.
I took to it like a duck to water. You eat the big meal at about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and you go to bed until 6, and you wake up, and then the Spaniards don't eat until 10:30 at night, and they'll stay out till 1 in the morning. You're like, how can you do that and get up and go to work the next
My
day?
parents still do that.
Yeah, well, it just made sense once I got there. I was like,
The Italians are like that too. The Italians are like that too. Have a late night meal.
Yeah.
Just a fun, good people. The food is great in Spain. I love the paella. I mean, they've got a lot of good stuff there. So I like every place. I really like someplace different that I haven't been. I like to see different cultures and experience different things, eat different foods, and learn about different places. Yeah, a lot of good
do a
people
cooking
out there.
show with you and Aggie.
Yeah, we should. I had to learn to cook because I married an Italian girl, and she said she doesn't know how to cook, and she tried making some Indian food. I was like, that's not good enough. Let me make it. But I realized that was like a trick 18 years ago that I had to end up learning to cook because if I really wanted good Indian food.
Well,
I enjoy cooking. One thing, what you were saying, how it kind of de-stresses what's what I'm looking for?
Calms you down? Or?
From work. So what I've learned, not just cooking, but buying from the seafood place, the full fish, the whole fish.
Yeah.
And then going and, cleaning it and and have a shot of bourbon or a glass of wine next to me. That was like the most relaxing thing.
Just the methodical process of preparing food. Even if you're just making a salad,
right?
Chopping.
That's too much time.
Making the things. It is a lot of
fully
work.
cleaning of fish. Usually it's too much time to make a salad.
Because there's a method you have to follow. So there's only so
yeah.
many ways you can cut a head of lettuce. That's it.
True.
No, I do enjoy cooking now. I'm having a lot of fun.
Indian
learning
food
that.
is the one that I find the most challenging because getting those spices right and getting that flavor,
correct,
that bright,
correct,
intense flavors.
Right.
I make it, but it just tastes dull and muddy. It doesn't have that same...
Because a couple of things I've learned, which kind of suits my personality. I cannot read instruction. I cannot follow instruction.
Yeah.
So I've just learned to cook by just feeling it and sensing it and smelling it and kind of tasting it. But I get spices from my family when I visit, so I have all homemade spices when I cook.
Yeah.
It's helps me than buying store-made, bagged,
fresh spices are key.
Yep.
Somebody
I
told
quite
me
enjoy
frying them opens them up too.
Yeah.
Getting the spices fried.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I've quite enjoyed. Charles has had my cooking. I don't know, Caleb, have you had my cooking?
One time,
yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah,
I don't think I've had your cooking. It just seems like a minute ago.
How the tables have turned here.
I'm going to reach out to Susan and invite Susan and Kevin to come over for some Indian food one day.
All right. Have you been to the Super G up in Pineville?
No, I heard about that. Someone was just talking to me about it.
It's where the Kmart used to be.
Okay.
Best Buy. And,
yeah.
Go check that out.
I'll have to, No, I have not. When I go there, I go to Best Buy, and then I turn around. I'm happy.
That's good too. But Super G's good.
I heard there's a new Indian restaurant coming in Rock Hill off Anderson Road.
Next to Scylla.
Next to Scylla,
Yeah, I like Scylla too. But, and there's an Indian grocery store that's coming into Fort Mill near, I think, Gold Hill and 160. Somewhere in there. There's supposed to be
But when we go to Fort Mill from Rock Hill, they don't want us to be there. They think we are not cool enough to be in Fort Mill. Can we change that? Can we pass a law for that?
Just let me know and I'll take you.
I'll have to give him a call.
I'll be your escort.
Outside of work, do you are more focused on the growth and things that's happening in the entire York County as a thing that you're focusing on?
Well, there's things I love about every corner of York County. I mean, I go to Black's Peaches and get peaches there in the summertime. I enjoy going to, it's not in York, but the Wagon Wheel in Fort Lawn. Their Sunday brunch is fabulous. Actually, my wife and I were married in the third booth. At the Wagon Wheel. We were married unofficially in Hendersonville by a judge who said it was in North Carolina. He's like, I'm a South Carolina judge. I can't marry you here. We're going to have to do this over again. So we met a couple of months later in the booth at the Wagon Wheel. And did it
That's funny. That's funny.
Our wedding certificate says Fort Lawn, South Carolina. There's stuff in every corner of the county that I enjoy. So we try to soak it all up.
Cool. Very cool.
Awesome. Is there anything in particular you are listening to right now? Any particular music that you like to listen to, or? I'm
a classic rock guy. I love blues. I'm a huge Dylan fan. I love Bob. But blues, J.J. Cale, Eric Clapton. I like jazz as well. I like classical music. I really have a pretty broad taste in music. I like it.
Do you play any musical instrument at all?
No, I failed to learn the drums, the trumpet, and the piano. So my problem is I have no patience. When I was trying to learn, I want to be like, if I learned the guitar or tried to, I want to be Eric Clapton today. Teach me how to to play Layla. That's what I want to do. I don't have this. Okay, first thing you have to do is learn how to hold the guitar. In my head, I'm already, 5 years down the road. So, I just don't have the patience. Maybe that's another thing I can look at.
There you go. So does this, for your position, you have to go through an election cycle every 4 years.
That's right.
So you can continue until you decide you don't want to do it anymore, or you don't win an election. So that's right. If that happens, then where does your career go?
If I don't win, I'd have to cross that bridge when I came to it.
But it'll still be.
I'm not planning for that.
No, I don't think you should either. We are supporting you 100% here, man. Okay, so But still be in the. You're not planning on retiring or anything like that. Okay, that was what I was going to ask.
No, I mean, I don't know what I would do. Like I said, maybe give the tours. Maybe learn guitar while I'm giving the tours, and then stopping off to cook.
There you go.
In the kitchen back.
Come on over.
Get one of those bar cart bike things, those bike things that people ride around. So you can be a bartender and tell your little sad stories about every place you go by.
That's a good thought. One of those,
Or one of those like
party
beer,
bus.
beer buses or whatever. You can sit in the front and like tell everybody as they're driving around.
If you look out the left window,
it's a party bus, but you're bumming everybody out the whole time. It's called the bummer bus.
They'll drink more though.
So let's talk about your election. When is the election? What's the date?
Well, the primary is June 11th.
Okay.
And then the general election is November 6th, 7th. I'd have to go look at the calendar, but that's further down the road. So the primary is for opposition in my party, and then the general election is for if there's Democratic opposition, then I would have an election in November. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Anything you're reading right now in particular, or do you read too much of your current job?
I do a lot of reading in the job, that's for sure. I do a lot of reading. I'm a international relations junkie. I was an international relations undergrad, so I follow a lot of different news services and foreign affairs, Wall Street Journal. I just sort of keep up with what's going on in the world because what's happening elsewhere definitely affects us here. So we got to keep an eye on that. But I'm kind of a news junkie. I guess that probably most of my reading is that. But I do a little bit of pleasure reading. I walk a lot. That's my de-stressor because it's a high blood pressure type job, and the pills don't do it by themselves. But I walk a lot, and I listen to books on tape, the Audible stuff. Nice. So I've always got a book going. That's probably. I think right now I'm listening to. I've been away from it for about a month. I need to get back to it. There's a book. Cutting for Stone. Are you familiar?
No.
Great book. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. Recommend it. Cutting for Stone. Yeah.
So do you have to walk around with 2-3 different cell phones?
No. It's too much. My last day on the job, I'm going to put my cell phone behind the back tire of my car as I pull out. And then I'll sweep up the pieces and encase them in lucite and put them by my bed. A friend of mine told me that a long time, and I was like, I get that.
Right.
Like it is a leash around your neck. You can't go anywhere. We have so many ways. That's another thing that's changed since I started out. Before, if you wanted somebody, you called them, you went to them, or you sent them a letter. And that was the way you communicated.
Right.
Now you've got texts and emails and phone and cell phone. You've got, oh my gosh, at Facebook, I get on there and if somebody sent me a message on Facebook 2 weeks ago, because I rarely get on Facebook, you're just like, oh, this guy's thinking I'm ignoring him, but I don't look at this stuff that often. Right. So, too many ways to get in touch with me. Get off the grid.
Right on.
Anything you're watching right now in particular?
Charles, you really did your research, man.
Just finished, because if it's raining or too cold outside, instead of walking outside, I walk on a treadmill, and I have it set up in my TV room. So, I just finished Masters of the Air.
That's so good.
Well, there's one more episode on Friday. But
what is it?
You would like it.
What is it?
It focuses on pilots in World War II.
Wow, okay.
So, bomber group out of the UK during the Second World War. And the casualties that they experienced massive,
it's
unbelievable.
Spielberg and Tom Hanks, a sort of Band of Brothers type production.
I haven't been on Netflix in months, so I might check it out. What is it called again?
Masters of the Air.
Okay.
Masters of Air.
Yeah, Masters of Air, Masters of the Air.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's very good.
Actually, I think it's on Apple.
Yeah, it's Apple.
I think it's an Apple. It's worth it though.
Okay.
Very, very good. If you have Apple TV, it's on there. And it's you don't have to pay for it. But I think you can buy it through Amazon. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Anyway, good stuff. That one's good. Yeah. So I just watched episode 8. Episode 9 is coming out on Friday. Yeah.
Nice.
Fantastic. Do you find that it's hard to watch legal dramas or courtroom dramas on TV?
Yeah, it's frustrating because on TV they collect the evidence at breakfast and then they get the lab reports back as they're eating their hot dogs at lunch. And you're like, no. And in real world, the lab report isn't coming back until if you collect it in January. You get it by summer.
So
it doesn't work the way it does. So, but it creates this this false sense among the public. It's
Right.
like, why is it taking so long?
Right.
It takes a long time because the system has got a lot going on. So I don't spend a lot of time. And people always ask me too, like, what do you think of this such and such case, the Murdaugh case?
Oh,
Or,
right,
Yeah.
what do you think about that case down in Florida? It's like, man, I struggle to keep up with all of my murders. I don't have time to be following somebody else's murders. It's a full-time job for me, so I don't know anything about it. Don't have an opinion.
Talking about that Murdaugh case,
Yeah.
that was based out of Beaufort or close to Beaufort?
Yeah, just Charleston
it's
area.
Hampton
Yeah.
County,
yeah.
Colleton, down in
Because I was there for flight training, and I was at the Jamaican restaurant. This older guy who was sitting and talking, and he was talking about it. He was so into it, and he's like, it's just 20 minutes from here. It's 30 minutes from here. And he was talking about all the
Yeah.
places
Oh,
where
the
it happened
places,
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Well,
Pretty
his
close.
dad was a colleague of mine. He was the
Okay.
solicitor when I started out, and I knew him for years before that. And I knew his grandfather, Buster. Just met him once.
Right.
It wasn't like I knew him like we were.
Right.
But that was a shocking situation down
crazy
there. Just
stuff.
an absolutely
Yeah.
horrible situation. That
Do you have a TV show or movie that you think gets it right?
Really? Is that
Wow.
a TV show?
I probably do. I'm just struggling to think. You know how it's like, oh gosh, there's so many. If there's a TV show that gets it right, I mean, I said Law and Order earlier, and how they condense everything because it's a show,
Right.
Yeah.
Except for the time compression, there's a lot of they get the issues. A lot of the issues are issues that we have to deal with, but they just compress everything into a 48-minute
unrealistic time
So
frame,
but
So I've seen a bunch of those episodes, maybe not all of them, but so the legal stuff or the legalese they talk about, and then the rules they are talking about, the laws they're talking about, are those based on reality or real stuff, or are they making up stuff?
I probably haven't seen Law and Order in 10, 12. I don't even know if it's still on the air, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't watched a lot of episodes of it, but the ones I saw, I was like, okay, yeah, this is sort of on point. These these are real issues that we deal with, and generally they can be real. But the problem is a lot of the issues we deal with are so complicated that it takes a while to get the context you need to really understand the issue.
Gotcha.
And they can't explain it in that little bit
Right.
for us. So they kind of set it up as a simple thing,
Right.
and leave a lot out. That,
Gotcha.
And Law and Order had some definite, CSI had created some problems because it also it set people's expectations inappropriately. Like science can solve any crime. Like, you get jurors in real cases going, well, when are we going to hear from the guy who sprinkled the magic fairy dust over the crime scene and the killer's name appears on the floor? Well, there is no magic fairy dust. That doesn't happen.
Right,
So,
right.
But CSI is science fiction. It's
Correct.
not real.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you kind of have to, recalibrate people's expectations early, and we called it the CSI effect.
Okay.
This is not real.
Right.
Science can do a lot,
Right.
but it can only do so much.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, things you want to share we haven't covered?
Oh, so much. You guys just, we could hunker down here for this is a big topic. Criminal justice system is an important component. Everybody counts on it to get it right, to treat people fairly, but also keep the community safe. That's a very important goal.
Yeah.
So it is a big job. I've been proud to do it for my entire career, and I've loved every minute of it. I've got so many people that I've helped over the years, and that it will be a source of pride with me till my last breath. So I love what I do, and hope to keep doing it.
Well,
Awesome.
We appreciate your work.
Yeah, Kevin, you've done well. We are very proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And wish you the best in the upcoming election.
Thank
We'll
you.
do our best to help you out in any way we can.
Thank you.
And we look forward to catching up with you for one of those cooking shows pretty soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know about a cooking show. That involves a camera, right? 'Cause you have to show what you're doing. What's the old joke? I've got a face for radio. But maybe if you just zoom in on my hand. That'll
He's the
work.
cameraman here. He can figure it out.
There you go.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much,
for
Kevin.
joining
I
us.
appreciate
It's
it.
great being with you. Thank you. Look forward to coming back someday.
Thanks for joining this episode of the Bandit Room. Stick around next week and see what we talk about.
The Bandit Room is a production of Span Enterprises, located in sunny Rock Hill, South Carolina. We've been developing, supporting, and growing successful IRS e-filing and business management solutions since 2010. Go to spanenterprises.com now to learn more. The views and opinions expressed in the Bandit Room are those of the guests. and do not necessarily reflect or state the opinions of Span Enterprises. No information should be considered as tax, legal, or other professional advice.